Alright, in this video we're going to talk about antivirus. And antivirus has gotten really tricky over the last couple of years especially. They've made it extremely difficult for even a system admin to complete tasks like running services, stopping services, uninstalling the antivirus even. There's some antivirus that you can install on your computer and you can't even uninstall it. You can't do it by any regular means. You have to either download a tool that will uninstall it for you or whatever. So even as a system admin, even if we had complete control over the machine, or even if we didn't hack the machine, if you were just a standard admin user on a computer, it's extremely limited in what you can do. And I understand why it's like that, but I still think that as the highest level on a system, you should have control over anything that's on your machine. But in this case, we are very limited as to what we can do depending on the antivirus program. One of the things that caught my eye is Malwarebytes. And we're going to go ahead and use Malwarebytes for this video. And there's two things. The main one thing is that Malwarebytes is free and anybody can download it. Of course, making this video, we can choose from a number of different free antivirus. But one thing in particular caught my eye. And in their beta section, they have an anti-exploit, and it works with Windows XP as well, which that's what we're going to be using for this video. And so I kind of looked at it almost as like a challenge, like, okay, they made an anti-exploit, so are we still able to exploit an XP machine that's vulnerable? Maybe the Malwarebytes will actually catch it. So based on just that alone, it kind of caught my attention, and I think we're going to go ahead and explore this program here as well. So there's two things. Downloads under products, there's Malwarebytes anti-malware free. So you can click free download. I already have it. Obviously, if you need to get internet access on your XP machine, however you need to set that up, you need to get this program onto your XP machine and install it. And you can simply do that by going into your XP machine, going to your VM settings, whether you're in VirtualBox or VMware, and you're going to want to change your network adapter from a host only, if it's on host only, to either a NAT or bridged. Usually NAT works very well, and that will share your main host computer's IP address so that you should be able to get on the internet. Now, another thing that you need to also consider is if you've specified an IP address, like we've specified the 192.168 range. Well, if my main network is not on this range, then we're going to probably have some issues and we won't be able to connect. So if you need to, you may need to just temporarily, and remember how we did this. We're going to go to the Start menu, Control Panel, and we're going to go to Network Connections. And here's our local area connection. I'm going to right click and go to Properties. And we basically need to get the Internet Protocol TCP/IP Properties. And here is where we specify our static IP. To undo this, you would just click Obtain an IP address automatically, and then just hit OK. And you should also, I'm not going to undo it because I've already got it, but you would just go ahead and obtain an IP address automatically. And down here, for your DNS settings, you would want to obtain DNS server address automatically. And that should get you on the internet. Of course, make sure that you switch your adapter to NAT. Once you have those two programs downloaded on your XP machine, you're going to want to go ahead and install that. And a lot of these programs will require that you have internet access because sometimes it will pull other files. So when you install it, you want to make sure that you have internet access. So let me go back to Malwarebytes real quick. That's just malwarebytes.org/downloads. So once you have that one, the free one, or of course if you want to invest money, you can actually buy the real malware, the Pro Edition. But once you've done that, just go back to Downloads up here and go to Beta and download the Malwarebytes Anti-Exploit. Download those two, put them both on your XP machine, and then if you need to, put your XP machine back on your host-only adapter, or however you want to have it set up. And in that case, once we're done, of course, we want to make sure that we are on the same subnet. Let me just type this back in here. So if I do an ifconfig, you can see I'm on 192.168.1.1.1, And over here I have 192.168.1.106. So make sure that you're on the same network again if you do change those settings. Alright, so I am in the MSF console. I've got both of my things installed here. I've got Malwarebytes Anti-Exploit, and I've got Malwarebytes Anti-Malware. Now, for whatever reason, I'm on a trial version. I've got 8 days remaining, but because we're using VMs, it's nice because we can destroy the VM, reload the VM, and then reload software on there. So if we needed to, we could do that as well. We could just load up another VM and throw those programs back on there. And we can just keep doing this for all of our testing. So if you ever need to know that, you can always wipe out your VM, like I said, and reinstall programs. Okay, so what we're going to do is, obviously I'm going to use exploit Windows SMB MS08. I'm just going to set this up real quick, show options. Also gives us a little bit of practice by doing it over and over again. Set our host 192.168.1. I think it was 106. Yep, 106. Oops, I put a... There we go. Set payload, Windows. We'll use the interpreter. Reverse TCP. Show options. We're going to set our L host 192.168.1.101, which I believe is correct. Oh, let's see. I guess I need to open up another terminal here. All right, and we are 101. Okay. Show options, and looks like we're good. We have everything here, so let's go ahead and run the exploit. Now, what I'm going to do is switch over here and just show you that I have the Malwarebytes Anti-Exploit running, and also the Malwarebytes Anti-Malware. And let's just take a quick look at our task manager. And in our processes, we can see we have our malware. This is for the Malwarebytes GUI. There's Malwarebytes. That's probably the main service that's running. And Malwarebytes Scheduler, Malwarebytes Service. So that's probably the service right there. But I don't see the anti-exploit in here. But I do know that it's running. It's right there. So let me just right click on here. Yeah, okay, so it is protecting the system, so it says. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that all that was running before we exploited it, so let's exploit it. And we have our interpreter session. Let's jump back. And it doesn't look like we've gotten any alerts. It hasn't stopped us from using our exploit. So anyone that is serious in the security community, knowing about Metasploit, Meterpreter, and all the different things that we can do, this is up to date, completely up to date, and we're still able to get our Meterpreter session. So anyways, so what we're going to go ahead and do now is let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that we can do to try and disable the antivirus. There are certain things that we can do in Meterpreter, like running our VNC session, starting other services, like putting stuff on the hard drive. There are certain things that will create scripts. It'll insert it into the temp directory in the Windows system. There's a lot of things that we can do, extra things that will flag an antivirus. And so obviously we don't want it to be flagged, so we're going to take a look at a couple different things. Let's go ahead and get a command prompt. I'm going to do an execute-f cmd.exe space -c. We're going to create a channel and capital H, which will be hidden. And so let's go to interact with 1. And now we are on our Windows XP machine, which is good. So there's a couple different things that we can do. In the interpreter session, we can do a PS, and it will show us the list of processes that are running. One other thing that we can do now that we're inside the shell, since we've gotten this far, is we can do a task list and hit enter. And this will go ahead and list all of the different tasks that's running. And what I'm going to specifically look for is we can try and kill some of these processes, but we need to shut down, or we should try to at least shut down services that are running. These aren't just processes, these are actually services that start up when the machine starts. And so if we were to kill a program, the service may recognize that and restart the antivirus. So we want to just go ahead and try and kill these services first before we do anything else. There's a couple different ways that we can look for services. We can do a task list /SVC for services, and let's see what pops up here. And there's a little bit on here. We want to basically pay attention to everything that's on the right. Everything on the right is going to actually list the service name. So we can see that there's like mbamscheduler.exe. Well, that's not the name of the process. That's the name of the. It's kind of confusing, but it's the name of the process that's running. It's the name of what's running on the system. But the actual name of the service name, is all here on the right hand side. And so you can go through here and look at different services that are running. So far, I only see an mbam scheduler and the mbam service. And we would obviously need to try and kill these, and we'll switch back and forth from our XP machine to actually kind of monitor the progress that we're doing in real time, kind of see if it flags anything or anything like that. So one thing that we can also do is, there's been a couple times where I've seen the service name over here, but when I would try to do something with the service, it will tell me that the service name is incorrect. And so there's another thing that I'm going to, another method that I'm going to use to search to try and find any services that is running Malwarebytes for our case. And we can see that everything starts with mbam. Everything that is, all these Malwarebytes things are running, they start with mbam. So that's important to remember. So one thing that we can do is we can do an sc query x type equals, space service space state equals space all. And we're going to add a pipe in there. And if you just hold down your shift and hit your backslash, or your, what we also call it a whack, which is above your enter key, then you should get this straight up and down line if you've never used that before. And we're going to do a find, and inside quotation marks, I'm going to go ahead and do mbam. I'm not sure if it needs to be case sensitive, but I'm just going to search it all lowercase and see if that even matters. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. It's very important that you have your spacing correct. So sc space query x space type equals space service space state equals space all space pipe space find space quote mbam end quote. Whew. All right, say that really quick over and over again. All right, let's see what happens. And so it doesn't find anything at all. So maybe it is case sensitive. Let me see. Oh, it won't let me use the up key, so I'm going to just run it again. sc query x type equals service state equals all, and find, let's put it mbam, all caps. Let's see if that matters. And it looks like it does matter. So we've got a service name and a display name. What we're interested in is the service name. The display name, it can be displayed as something else, which is why we can try and shut it down, and it might say, hey, this isn't the right service. So we want to pay attention to the service name. So we've got an mbam scheduler and an mbam service. Which one do we shut off first? I don't know. I'm going to probably try to shut down the service first, and then see if we can shut down the scheduler. So let's go ahead and look at some of these services. Let's look at some of the properties. And I'll also, at the end of this video, we'll go ahead and go into XP, and we'll do all of this like through like the actual Windows without doing it inside of DOS, so that you can kind of see the graphical side of how this looks. So I'm going to do an sc query x and the name of the service. So let's look at the mbam service. I'll make sure that I type that in all proper with uppercase and lowercase and everything. And here we go. So it tells us what type of service it is. It tells us if it's running, the state, it's obviously running. It says that it's not stoppable, not pausable, and it ignores shutdown. So if we were to try to stop this service, it's basically telling us that we can't do it. Let's go ahead and pull up the scheduler and see what that looks like. SC query X, mbam scheduler. This one is stoppable. It's not pausable, ignores shutdown. So the difference is we have a service that will allow us to stop it, and we have a service that will not allow us to stop. But let's go ahead and see if it actually will let us stop it or not. So I'm pretty sure that the mbam scheduler, basically because it's telling me that it's stoppable, we're probably not going to have an issue with this service. We may have an issue with the mbam service. So let's pay attention to that a little bit more carefully. Now to try and stop a service, we can type in net space stop and then the name of the service. So mbam service, enter. And it says that the requested pause or stop is not valid for this service. Now this was expected, and this is why it's important to pay attention to the actual properties and see ahead of time what we're actually able to do and we're not able to do. And if we had a really touchy antivirus or something, I'm not sure, but the more stuff that we kind of do to manipulate the system, it may look at it and say, hey, something's trying to shut down the service, and it may throw up a flag. And I may show another example of that here in just a little bit. So anyways, it doesn't look like anything has been flagged, which is nice. No pop-ups or anything like that. And so what can we do? We can't stop the service. So what are our options? Well, there's some things that we can try to do. We can, first of all, make it so that we can disable the service on startup. So right now, every time that the computer boots, it's running the service. But even though that we can't stop it, right now, we can try and tell it to not start it next time. And that's what we're going to try and go with. So let's do an sc config. And we need to know the name of the service. So it's going to be mbam service. That's the one that I care about right now. Start equals space disabled. And this is obviously, we're running the sc command. Instead of looking at the properties, we're going to enter in this config, which we're going to change the start to disabled, so that next time we boot it up, or next time that the machine boots, hopefully it's disabled. Let's see if it will let us do that. Awesome. It says change service config. It was successful. So now all we would really need to do at this point is to reboot the machine, and we'll be able to see if it actually runs again or not. So let's go over here. Everything is still running. The exploit still hasn't caught anything. And let's take a look at this other mbam scheduler. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to try to stop it. The fact that it's running right now probably means that when the computer starts, it's probably automatically starting. So I'm going to try and also disable that, but let's see if we can just stop it. Net stop, the name of the service, mbam scheduler. And it was stopped successfully. Let's go over here. No flags or anything. That's awesome. And now for the heck of it, let's just pull up a task list, services, and see if it's still running. I see the mbam service, but not the scheduler. So we were successful, as it did say that we did stop it. From this point, we could be a little bit more malicious if we wanted to. There is a way that we can try and delete malware bytes out of the registry so that it wouldn't stop the service. But of course, that would probably throw up some registry errors or some kind of flags when we would boot the service or boot the system next time. If you wanted to play around with registry settings, you would need to do your homework and try to find where it's installed in the registry. So one thing that you can do now, just keep in mind, if you're not comfortable with looking at the registry, I don't want you to do anything that is going to mess up the system. Otherwise, you're going to have to reload your VM. But what we can do is we can go to the Start menu, go to Run, and we can type in reg edit. And one thing that we can look at in here is we're going to look for the local machine, HKey local machine, software, and we can see that there's a bunch of registry folders for Malwarebytes. Now obviously if we were to try and delete these when it would go to start up the services and so forth, obviously the folder's not there and it's not going to work. We would probably also get a bunch of other errors and the user might be a little suspicious of that. But I do know that usually when you want to delete some of these registry locations, if a service is running, you need to stop that first. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to delete it. Once the service is stopped, then you can go in and start actually removing it from the registry. And that's one way to kind of permanently remove it if we were, it just takes a lot of research. I mean, this stuff gets so complicated and it's so time consuming. I've spent hours and hours and hours on a lot of research with antivirus, and it's really tricky. So some of it's just doing your homework. Now, what if we couldn't actually go into the registry settings and look for Malwarebytes? Well, that's why we have the internet. That's why we have Google, and we would just try and look and try to use the internet and try to find where the default path is for the registry. Where is it installing it? Unless a user actually changes it, it's probably going to be the same. So that's just another idea of what you could do. And how you would do that from here is we would do a reg delete. We would do an HKey underscore local machine, a whack or a backslash software / and then the name of the folder like Malwarebytes or whatever that location was, and that would go ahead and try and delete that registry key. That's how you would do that. I'm not going to do that because I'm still planning on testing the system and I don't want to mess up the Malwarebytes. So, all right. I think what we'll do now is just do another sc config. We'll do the mbam scheduler. And we're going to do a start equals disabled so that if it goes to start it, now it won't. There we go. It's a success. Awesome. Now what we can do is, if you know the command line in DOS or the command prompt to reboot the system, you can do that. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to exit. And now I can do a PS in Meterpreter, and I can also view what's going on. We still see that the mbam service is running, and we've got this mbae.exe also running, which looks like it's probably just the program that's running. I can go ahead and try and start killing these tasks, but we're going to go ahead and do that in a little bit. What I can do is just do a reboot command, and it should be rebooting this machine now. Let's take a look. And it is logging off, so good. Now, since the machine is rebooting, we're going to have to get out of our Meterpreter session. So I'm going to do an exit. When the machine comes back up, then we'll go ahead and re-exploit it. Now, how do we know when to re-exploit it? Well, you would just try until you would actually get back on the system. But there's going to be in future videos, I'm going to actually show you how to, when the system automatically comes back up, that it's going to call back to us. So that we don't need to guess when it started. It will just automatically try and connect back to us when it's ready, when it's booted back up. So I'll show you guys that in a future video. But let's go ahead and wait just a few more seconds here, and we'll continue on with the video. Okay, so at this point we can exploit the machine. I'm not sure what kind of access it's going to give us, but we actually don't need to be logged in. So if it was a case where we did reboot the machine and it's just like this, where the user doesn't log in, we can go ahead and just try to exploit it anyways and see what happens. I'll just use my up arrows, or you can just type in exploit and we'll see what happens. Alright, and it opened up a Meterpreter session, so it works even if the user is not logged in. So let's do a get UID and see what we are. We are NT Authority System. Let's do a sysinfo. Yes, we're Windows XP. The computer name is XPVM1. So everything is just like it would normally be. Now let's do a PS and see what's going on there. We see that the another service is loading. It looks like it's trying. It's this mbae-loader.exe. Is there any other things in here with mbam? I don't see it. Well, that's interesting. Let's go ahead and log in now and see if anything changes. xpvm1 is my password with this VM, just because I need to remember what it is. And we'll do another process and see what's going on now. So there are a few more processes that loaded up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the XP machine. And if you look, there is no Malwarebytes, anti-exploit. That's not even running. Oh, there we go. I just had to give it a little bit more time there. So we're going to try and shut this down now. The anti-exploit is running, but what I want to see is if the Malwarebytes automatically starts. So I'll give that a few more seconds here. Exploit attempt block. This has nothing to do with my current Meterpreter session. This is some other stuff that I've done with this machine. For example, I've got some things on this computer that's trying to call back, and so it's detecting that, but that's not how you shouldn't get that error. Later on, when we do some of these other exploits, then it may detect it. But this is why I'm going to show you how to shut this down. We've already exploited the machine. It hasn't kicked us off. We still have our Meterpreter session, and we're going to go ahead and try and kill this thing now. So I don't want you to be confused with that at all. So I think I've given enough time, and doesn't look like Malwarebytes is starting, which is cool. Now let's try and get rid of this anti-exploit. So what we can do is we can try and just kill it. Let me do another PS and see if anything else is loaded up. Doesn't look like it. So I'm going to terminate this MBAE, which looks like it's the anti-exploit. It's not Malwarebytes, the antivirus, it is the anti-exploit. Let's see if we can kill it. The process ID on mine is 944. So we're going to do a kill, and then the process ID, which mine is 944, yours may be different, and let's see what happens. It says that it killed it. Let's go back over to our XP machine. Of course, we can also do a PS. We can see it's not loaded in here anymore. 944 is not, 944 is not in there. And it's gone. I just had to move my my mouse over there, and it's gone. So that is that's just a way of, this is one example of showing you some of the things that we can do. I know it's a long video, and this isn't going to work with every antivirus. One thing that I probably should mention is Meterpreter has an antivirus script that's called kill AV. And to run that script, you could do a run kill AV. Now this isn't going to work with Malwarebytes and probably any other modern antivirus that's running currently. And this is because the script is old, it hasn't been updated. We would need to go and update that ourselves, but all it does is it doesn't try to stop services, it just tries to kill the tasks. So if the services were still running, it would just restart those tasks. So that's the reason why I didn't use the kill AV script that's available. One final thing that I guess I'll end on is, because antivirus is getting very tricky, Malwarebytes is a little bit more forgiving, and if we go to all programs, anti-exploit, it allows us to uninstall it. We can also uninstall Malwarebytes anti-malware. Now, some antivirus won't even let you, like I said before, it won't even let you uninstall. Even as an admin, it won't let you uninstall it. And so that's very frustrating. So it's not even a matter of can we do it or not, or how do we do it. It's just, even as the system admin, sometimes we don't even have control over some of these services and things that are running, and it's made it very frustrating, but it's also a challenge. So that's something that's constantly going to be evolving. If you want to kind of get into antivirus a little bit more, there's a lot of stuff that you can learn, you can really experiment with a lot of things, and you may be able to even create some Metasploit modules and stuff like that yourself, and actually contribute some of your work. So later on in future videos, I'm going to show you how to create your own Metasploit scripts to run, like your own modules. We're going to go ahead and look at a whole bunch of other things. We're going to go ahead and get into Windows 7. I may even boot up Windows 8. And so we're just getting to the tip of all this stuff. So stay tuned, guys. I hope that you are enjoying the video series, and I will see you in the next video.